Hello everyone. Today I'm going to focus on population in this presentation, if there are too many or too few, and why it is complicated. Let's start with the sentence. There are about 8 billion people are living on the earth. 8 billion people. That milestone triggers two very different reactions. Some worry that we are running out of resources. Others say the real issue is how we consume and govern. In this short talk, I'll explain why defining overpopulation is tricky, why people disagree about its link to environmental problems, and why the population poverty debate is so contentious. I'll connect ideas from our population dynamics lecture, like population composition, dependency ratios, and Malthusian debate, with insights from Brian Walsh in Watts 2023 and Bruce Livesey in CBC Ideas 2023. Overpopulation isn't just the head count. As we saw in class, population change depends on births, deaths, and migration, but impact depends on more than size. It's shaped by consumption patterns, resource distribution, technology, and governance. Two countries with the same population can have totally different footprints if one uses more energy intensive lifestyles. Bruce Lipsey underlines this. A million high consumption residents can drive more environmental impact than 10 million low consumption residents. Brian Walsh makes a related point. Population alone doesn't determine outcomes. Technology, inequality, and policy strongly mediate them. This is why overpopulation is a value-laden term and often gets used politically. As highlighted in our lecture materials, debates can unfairly blame the global south, even though per capita emissions there are often far lower. So there is no single universal threshold that says this is too many. It is people multiply, systems multiply, choices. Here's why people clash. On one side is a Malthusian or neo-Malthusian view which says population grows geometrically while food supply grows arithmetically, so growth leads to scarcity and crisis. Think Thomas Malthus and later Paul Ehrlich's The Population Bomb. They warn that rapid growth, especially in poorer countries, risks famine and ecological collapse. On the other side, there are critics or modern perspectives. Our course materials show how technology expanded carrying capacity. The Green Revolution massively boosted yields. Walsh stresses that impact isn't automatic. It depends on who is consuming and how. Because emissions are highly unequal between countries and classes. More people doesn't always mean more damage. In short, Malthusians center numbers, while critics center systems, consumption, technology change, and inequality. A helpful way to see the disagreement is the IPAT idea. Impact equals population multiply affluence multiply technology. Some focus on the P or population and argue fewer people means less stress. Others focus on consumption or technology, arguing that clean energy, efficiency, and policy can split growth from damage. Walsh emphasizes that per capita emissions vary widely. Fast-growing regions can have very low per person emissions, while slower-growing wealthy regions have high ones. Also, population projections are uncertain. Small shifts in fertility, mortality, or migration can change long-term outcomes, which is why predictions about environmental impact are contested. People also disagree on population and poverty. One argument says rapid growth strains infrastructure, schools, jobs, and housing, and raises dependency ratios, making it harder to lift incomes. That's a real challenge in places with young age structures. The opposing view says population isn't the cause of poverty, but also inequality and governance are. Livesay highlights how distribution, not just numbers, shapes well-being. Walsh adds the fertility typically falls after development. As health, education, and women's empowerment rise, family size declines. So, is population a driver of poverty or a symptom of a deeper structural issues? That's the crux of the disagreement. Now, we can take another look at the main question. Is 8 billion too many or too few? Our course materials and both readings points to the same conclusion. Population matters, but so do consumption, technology, inequality, and governance. That's why the overpopulation debate is as much about values, politics, and power as it is about numbers. There isn't a single correct answer. There are different lenses emphasizing different drivers. But I can say, from my point of view, consumption, technology, inequality, and governance are much more important than population itself. In this presentation, I've drawn on Brian Walsh, books 2023, and also Bruce Livesay, CBC Ideas 2023, plus our population dynamics lecture materials and standard population indicators we've discussed in class. Full references are on screen. Thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully my presentation was good enough to learn from.